Class 12. We are left with the last topic of chapter 5 or 6 that we were doing, okay, sustainable agriculture, and that is food security, the last part. Not to neglect this topic because again you get questions, broad questions as well as objective questions from this particular topic. Okay, so very briefly I'll tell you what is important from the examination point of view. Right, first and foremost, okay, you need to understand what is food security. Okay, so the definition that the Food and Agricultural Organization, that is the FAO, has given for food security. Food security means when every person, okay, when every individual has access to safe and nutritious food. The food should be safe, it should be nutritious, and when all people in the country they have access to safe and nutritious food, then that particular country is said to have food security, right? So this is the definition given by the FAO, right? Then the next topic for your examination is why has a situation come today where we have to think of food security? What is the need behind food security? We learned about green revolution where we doubled and tripled the production. Then why suddenly is the question of food security arising in the different countries? Especially a country like India, we can say that we have no food security for all the people, right? So first is, why is there a need for food security? Okay, all the points are given. You don't need to read the entire chapter, okay? The points are given. Please go through pages 116, 17 and 18, right? The different reasons why we need to achieve food security, why there is a need for food security is because number one is because the population has been growing geometrically, but food has been growing arithmetically. We have done this in chapter 1 only. That means the population is growing at a very rapid rate, but food production is not growing at that rapid rate. This is one reason why we have to think of food security. The second is we do not have enough land for cultivation. Where have we lost the land? Why don't we have enough agricultural land for cultivation? Is because when the population grows, most of the land, arable land, cultivable land is taken away for housing and other developmental purposes. That is why we are not left with enough arable land, right? So the second problem why we are not being able to achieve food security is because one is the population is too high, the second is because we have very less cultivable land due to population growth. Third reason why we have to think of food security is because the way the cost of food is increasing, food has become so expensive that even if we have lots of food in the country, it is not affordable by the poorer segments of society. Everybody cannot afford to buy the food because it is very, very expensive. You all know that. Then next reason why we have to think of food security is because what happened during the Green Revolution. I told you, if you have heard the lecture properly, in Green Revolution what happened is we were only growing soil depleting crops. We were not growing soil building crops. And I told you during Green Revolution, people suffered from malnutrition. There was enough food. Food was there everywhere, very cheap. But there was malnutrition because we were not growing nutritious food, right? Food which are rich in proteins and vitamins, they were not being grown. Another reason why today we have to think of food security is because people are malnourished. Okay. Then another next reason behind why we are thinking of food security is government is not helping the poor farmers. Farmers are not getting loans, farmers are not getting proper land, they are not getting proper equipment, rather they are not getting help from the government through which they can practice proper agriculture. This is another reason. And the last reason, you just have to know 5 to 6 points class. The next reason today why we are thinking of food security is because climatic changes. Okay, because of climatic changes, that definitely we have because it is because of our mistakes that there is climatic change, we lose a lot of food grains. A lot of food grain is lost, sometimes because of flood, sometimes because of lack of water, sometimes because of pest problems, we are losing the food. So these are the reasons why today countries like India have to think of achieving food security. Okay, and the next topic is problems in attaining food security. Why we cannot, again we can take the example of our own country, why we cannot achieve, what is the problem that we are not being able to achieve food security. Number one, please check page 118. Okay, what are the problems in attaining food security? Number one is the rate of food production is very slow. It is very low. The food that is being produced for the population of our country is very low, right? Then the next reason, even if India has sufficient food grains, okay, even if we have enough of food grains, it is not affordable by every person. Okay, especially what we need to understand here is poverty and disease, they go hand in hand. Let's consider the rural population of our country. They are already poor. They are not being catered by the government, right? So they are already poor. When you are poor, you are malnourished. When you are malnourished, you get diseased. And when you get diseased, you may die because of lack of medical care. Okay? So when a person is poor, he cannot buy food. He is malnourished. When he is malnourished, he is prone to diseases. When he gets diseases, maybe in the village area, the earning member dies. And when the earning member dies, that family cannot afford to buy food, right? So that is another problem why we cannot supply food to each and every person in a country like India. Then the next thing that you have to understand, where ICSE will also ask you questions, is regarding India, we have problem of storage. We are producing lots of food grains maybe, but we need to store the food grains before it is actually transported and sold in the market. We need to store. Problem is, we do not have proper warehouses to store the food. If you do not have a proper storage place, your food will be infected by pests. There will be moisture, and then the food gets decayed, right? So the problem in India is that we may be producing a large amount of food grains, but our storage facilities are very poor. That is why we lose most of the food grains in the warehouses where it is before it is actually transported also, right? And the next problem in India is regarding transportation. When you are transporting the food grains from the warehouses from one place to another, the transportation system that we have for food grains, okay, either in the open railway coaches or in the trucks, what happens when you're carrying the food grains in sacks? What is happening is that there are weather changes. It might be raining, it might be very moist outside. There are predators, there are birds who come and feed on the food. So you are losing your food grains there, right? And because of the weather changes, when your food is being transported, the food gets damp and then we lose our food. So storing is a big problem. And then the next big problem is about transporting the food from one place to another. So majority of our food grains is lost during storage and transportation, right? Then the next question that you also need to understand is regarding grading. Grading of food grains. If you go to a shop, let me give you a very simple example class. If you go to a shop and you see pulses kept in different sacks, so you must have seen that some pulses in a sack are very polished and small grains and they look very fine. In another sack, you may see bigger grains of pulses and they don't look very polished. Okay, another sack you may see a sack full of dirty grains. Okay, so that is called grading. Good grains, bad grains, then sized, small sized, big sized. That is called grading the product, right? So what happens is, I go to a shop and I want that polished grain, good looking, clean. I want to buy that, then I will definitely buy it at a much higher price as compared to the other grades, right? So that is called grading. That is according to the affordability of the customers, they buy the product. It is the same product, but because of the shine and the polish and the size of the grains, they are graded. So what happens? We do not have a proper system of grading also. If we grade good and bad, then the farmers also get good income. But what is happening? Because of the middlemen that are involved in buying and selling the product to and from the market, what is happening? Because proper grading is not done, the farmers are suffering financially, right? So these are the various problems because of which we are not being able to achieve food security. So you have to know, class, what is food security? You have to know why food security. You have to know what are the problems in achieving food security, right? And the last part, this question had come in 2019, so it does become important for you. That is taking into consideration all the problems that we have. The government came up with the food security law that was designed in the year 2013. Okay, that is the Food Security Law 2013. So that's on page 111. Okay, this is 2019 question that had come for 5 marks. So the maximum that you have to know is 6 points. Okay, so if you check on page number 111, what has the government done for the poor people to achieve food security? Okay, that is also happening in this pandemic. Okay, the government is assisting the poor people with free food grains. You all must be aware of that. That is also a new food security law 2021, right? So you should be aware of what is happening in this pandemic also. You may be asked about that also next year. So regarding the food security law of 2013, first thing that the government did is 75% of the rural population who are poor, right? And 50% of the urban population who are poor urban people. Okay, 75% of the rural who are definitely poor, 50% of the urban who are urban poor, living in the cities but they are poor. What has the government done? The government is providing them 5 kg of food grains per month at the rate very, very cheap and subsidized rate, 3 rupees, 2 rupees and 1 rupee per kg for rice, wheat and grains respectively. So you can imagine how highly priced food grains are, but for the poorer segments of the society, the government is giving them at a very, very subsidized rate, right? Then who will identify the states who are eligible to get these food grains at a very low price? People might just come out and say, I also need it. So the state government is responsible for identifying which households are actually poor, BPL, below the poverty line, who will get this facility from the government. And then the third point is pregnant women who are expecting. Pregnant women, they are allowed take-home ration, okay, 600 calories worth take-home ration, and they are also getting a maternity benefit of 6,000 rupees for 6 months, so that they can look after themselves and they can look after the child, right? Then as you all must also be aware, for the schools, what is happening in the government schools is children who are of the age of 6 to 14 years, they get free hot meals. That is, there are 2 reasons. One is to lure the child and bring the child to school, so because he or she is getting free food, bringing the child, and once the child comes, the child also gets education. education. Okay, so this is a policy of the government to bring the child for food, but once the child comes for food, the child also gets education. So we are also being able to increase the literacy rate of the country by doing so, right? Then what is the central government doing? They are providing fund to the states. Suppose West Bengal is short of fund. We have to give so much of free ration to the poor people. Suppose West Bengal has a lot of poor people to whom the government is not being able to cater. The West Bengal government is not being able to cater with the finance. Then the central government, what do is they assist the states in giving them funds so that the poor people can continuously get the supply of food, right? And then we have the system of PDS. All of you know that PDS, public distribution system. All the households are being identified and they are being given rice and wheat and pulses and kerosene and oil, something that is a required necessity for life, that is being provided by the government at a very, very subsidized rate, right? And then you also have to know about the eldest woman in the household, the lady who is the oldest in the household. 18 years, she can be 18 years or above, it depends on the family condition. So that woman can be 18 years or above, is the head of the household for the issuance of ration card. So we are all owners of ration cards, so we know. So once a girl turns 18, or the eldest member of the family, they can take ration card from the government officials, right? And the government, what facilities they have also opened is a redressal cell. If I have some grievances, if I am not getting food, I am a poor person, I cannot afford food, and I do not come under the PDS system, I am not getting help, then there is also a redressal cell where the people can come and give their grievances, and the government, the state government, they will take action to provide food to the poorer segments. So this is the Food Security Law of 2013. So we are done with chapter 6. Okay, this is the last chapter of section B, right? So we have section A, section B, section C. The syllabus has not been reduced, right? So we are left with section C with 2 chapters, right? So in the next lesson, next class, I'll be starting that. Today, the last part I have done. So you have to know the initial part, that is how Green Revolution began. Then you have to know how we went on to adopt sustainable agriculture, and then you have to know the food security law. Okay, so in the next class I will be starting section C, that is chapter 7.